Everyone, welcome to my reader's journal. Today, I'm very excited to finally talk about Shadow and Fold. Everyone, welcome to my reader's journal. Today, I'm finally going to be able to talk about Shadow and Bone, written by Leigh Bardugo. I know that this series is very controversial in the sense that some people really like it, some people don't like it. So, I'm excited to share what my thoughts are, how I experienced it. I did read this series in 2024. Well, the trilogy, books 1, 2, and 3. Have not read Six of Crows, have not read the other duology that um, is King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. Haven't read those yet. Those I will be reading later this year. But right now I'm doing a reread. That way my ideas and thoughts on this book are fresh. And I'm also finishing my buddy reading with my friend. So we're going to be doing that for books 2 and 3. But right now it's time to talk about book 1. I'm going to try to make this non spoiler section pretty short. That way I can get to more of the juicy things. But to say the least, the first thing that I wrote down is that this book is pretty quick and easy to consume. I would honestly recommend it for anybody who is young adult who wants to read their first fantasy book in a sense. Like it has a nice magic system, and I think that the characters lend themselves well enough into this world, and you really get a good foundation. That's what I will say about this first book. It really lays down a really good foundation for this world. And even though this book has flaws that I will talk about in the spoilers, I do think overall, good foundation, good characters, and it really is just a quick and easy read. One thing that I wrote down that isn't spoiler about the main character is that I liked Alina's sarcasm, especially whenever she's interacting and talking with Mal, or even interacting and talking with Kenya. I think that she has this personality with her sarcasm that really shines through in this first book. I don't remember if it continues on to books 2 and 3, which I think isn't a good sign. But at least in this first book, I did enjoy those sarcastic comments that she would have, or the little banter that she would have with Mel or even with Kenya. I think that was a nice touch for her. Another thing that I wrote down is that I also like that we saw Alina training for months. So in the book, she gets to the little palace, I think in the fall, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if it was like the beginning of fall or middle of fall, but she gets there in the fall, and then she is there pretty much for months. And during that time frame, she is training to use her powers and everything. And I think that overall, this section I enjoyed because it's pretty rare to see characters go through training for X amount of time. A lot of the times, some book series will have the character just be able to use their powers right away, and in a span of a week, they will be able to master their power, which I don't find as enjoyable as having a character who is literally starting from rock bottom, training months and months and months and failing, and then finally be able to use their powers. I think that is really what shined through for me when I was reading this book. I also wrote down wasn't in love with the main character. I didn't dislike her, like just to be frank. But when the plot is driving the story as opposed to the character, then that can cause a disconnection between reader and main character. So for me, I am okay with reading books that are plot based, right? Like I'm okay with a character or the main character not doing too much, and like they're just going through the plot of events and everything. Usually I'm pretty okay with that. Like I don't hate it, but I can see the downfalls of it. And in this case, it does have some downfalls, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense because she was just a regular girl living her regular life out in the First Army. And then I don't know where she finds out that she does have these powers, and now everybody's either trying to kill her, kidnap her, whatever. And then she's sent to this castle where now she's supposed to train to use these powers that she's never used before. And like all these events are happening and she's just like trying to keep up with them. Like to me it kind of makes sense in this case, but at the same time what ends up happening is is that I end up feeling kind of disconnected between the main character. I don't root for her as much. It's more so like I want to make sure that the antagonist is beaten or that certain plot points are achieved, as opposed to me actually rooting for the main character, if that makes sense. And last thing for my non spoilers, that things simply happen to the main character. That just goes back to what I was talking about earlier. All right, so this is it for the non spoiler things. I'm going to talk more in depth with my spoiler section, but if you don't want to get spoiled, now's the time to hop off. And yeah, let's get to it. Yo, I just spent a whole, I want to say 10, 15 minutes talking to my phone, and I didn't realize that the mic had died. So nothing from the spoiler section actually got audio recorded. So it's literally me just me talking, and it's very. But anyways, to restart this spoiler section, the first thing that I have, I like Genya's complexity. So first thing I actually want to ask is, how do people pronounce her name? I say Genya, but I can also see the argument for Genya. But to me, Genya just makes sense. But anyway, the thing that I like about her character is that she has this complexity and this loyalty to the Darkling, because she is put in a position that honestly nobody should be able to be put in. But the Darkling's the one that is able to really move her out from there, right? I like the fact that she has been working with Darkling. That just adds another layer to her character. It's something that makes sense because she is put in a position that nobody really should be put in, and the Darkling being the one that is on her side, in her corner when nobody else is, I think makes her loyalty so much more stronger, and you can see why she is doing the things that she's doing. And I even like the fact that at the end when Alina's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't tell you that I was like running away or whatever," that Genya's like, "Well, if you told me, I would have stopped you." And even though they were friends, I like that she has that complexity with her loyalty where she's like, you were my friend, like we became friends, but I'm loyal to this man right now." So the next thing that I wrote down, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, which whatever, I don't care. I don't like, or I don't get the desire for the Darkling. Now, I'm gonna preface that by saying I understand the desire of someone reading a young adult fantasy and yearning for the main character to be in a relationship with the antagonist who is essentially her opposite, with especially with the light and the dark powers, and having Alina being such a good and more moral character, and the Darkling being this brooding and dark character. Like, I understand that desire. Like, I'm not saying anything against that, like, foundational piece. But what I don't understand is the desire for this character. I don't understand how some people are like die hard Darkling X Alina fans. Like, I don't understand that he, in this whole time that I read the book or the other books, he never gave me like love interest vibes. He gave me creeper vibes. He gave me I'm old as and I'm pining over this. Well, not pining. He's manipulating this girl. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And one of the things that I texted my friend, so he tells Alina that he's 120 years old. And I text my friend right away. I'm like, dude, this man is 120 years old. Like, that is flag number 1 through 120. Like, I don't understand. Like, after that, people should have been like, oh, probably not, right? But no. And I understand that some people also don't like the other love interest, Mal, but that doesn't mean that you should go then pining after the Darkling. Like, what? Like, don't do that. And also to add, I know that some people, especially watching other people's reviews, they felt kind of like scolded to by the author. Like when they felt like when they were reading the book, they felt scolded to by wanting the Darkling to be with Elena. And even though I'm coming off as kind of like a scolding attitude, like, oh, you shouldn't have like that, like, but that's just me. That's me saying it. The author, I didn't get that. And I will acknowledge that I think part of that is because I didn't see the Darkling as a romantic figure. So I don't think that message really came to me if that is the case. But I'll scold you. If someone has to, I'll scold you. You shouldn't have been manipulated by whatever the Darkling was saying. Like they had two scenes. I think it was just two. And they were short scenes. It was two short scenes where they were like bantering and laughing, and then that's all it took for everybody to be like, yes. And I'm like, out of if you had read the whole thing logically with maturity, you would have been like, no, girl, no. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. Like I said, I don't understand the desire for his character, but I do understand the desire for the foundation of that ship. Like I understand that. I just with the character that with the way that he was written, I just don't see that. All right, so moving forward, I didn't like the two instances where Alina realizes something and is now able to use her powers. And this isn't even like a Mary Sue thing because and even if it is, I'm being honest, I don't even know what Mary Sue is. I don't understand the reference. Maybe I'm too young for it. I don't know. But there's two instances in this book where Alina comes to this realization about something. And then right away, she's able to use her powers and have some level of control of them. And I just, I, I don't like it because you can tell it is very plot driven instead of character driven, but it's supposed to be kind of character driven, but really it's not because it's just used to move the plot forward instead of the character. But hey, so the first instance is in Bagra's hut. Alina's having this breakdown because Mal hasn't written her letter, so she feels alone, and she comes to this realization that like outside of this palace, nobody's out there for her. Like nobody's waiting for her. And she's like so upset. She's crying. She's having this breakdown. And then during this breakdown, for whatever reason, her brain is like, yo, remember this. Remember when you were getting tested to see if you were Grisha or not? And then you thought that you weren't Grisha. Turns out you were. And you've just been unconsciously hiding your powers this whole time so you wouldn't be separated from Mal. But guess what? Mal doesn't give a about you no more. So here's your powers. Like what? And then after that, she's like able to use her powers. And granted, it's not like she has full control over them just yet, but now she's like just able to bring them out like it was nothing. And I just don't understand that decision besides it being okay now we have to actually like move forward with a plot you know and then at the end when they're in the shadowfold and the darkling is essentially winning, Alina again has this realization with a stag that like, hey, remember when I gave or showed some mercy to the stag? He actually liked that. He gave me his power. I have control over this power. And now she was able to use her power however she wanted. The Darkling no longer was able to control her. And the way that was written in this book, the words did not communicate that. The words were, oh, she saw the stag. And then she realized something. That was literally the book. I kid you not. And I don't get it. Like it should have been developed more. It should have been explained because it quite literally was she's imagining the stag and she doesn't understand what it means. But then she realizes something. and then she's able to use her powers. Like that's it. Like I kid you not, that is how it goes. And that really, those two instances really bring down the book for me because I just can't get over how like plot driven they are as opposed to character driven. Like those two moments should have been very character driven, where in one instance she is finally taking a stand where um she is putting her past behind her and she's really focusing on her work, and it should have been showed that little by little she is finally bringing out that power and being able to control it. That should have happened at the end. It should have come to that realization that's like, well, I don't even know how to fix that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not gonna try to ramble on forever, so I'm gonna just leave it at it just didn't make sense. Anyways, last point. All right, the last thing that I have is I stand with Mal. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people hate Mal. I know a lot of people hate Mal, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I watched the show before I read the books. Okay, so to me, when I'm reading the books, I'm also imagining show Mal, and I think that helps. But at the same time, people hate Mal for no reason. They, in their head, are imagining this person who is unsupportive, who doesn't care for Alina, who just isn't good for her. And I'm just like, what book are you reading? Because that's not this book. Like, he is literally pining for her in this book. He was separated from her and he realizes that he loves her. He was lost without her. And in the beginning of the book, he was like, yo, if we're ever separated, I would be lost without you. And that is the craziest thing for someone to say who is labeled the best tracker ever, because you're telling me the best tracker ever tells this girl that if he is separated from her, he will be lost? Dude, dude, dude. Love doesn't write itself into a wall. That is love. I don't even know if that made sense, but that was love. And then honestly, I don't remember if in my spoiler free segment I was talking about the Darkling not apologizing. I didn't talk about the Darkling too much this time around, but I want to point out the Darkling never apologized for what he did. Nunca. Man was like, I did what I did and I'm gonna do it again. Mal, on the other hand, apologizes. Yeah, I get he came to the little palace and then he had this heated conversation with Alina. Look, they were both feeling these different feelings, right? This was the first time she saw him. She was yearning for him. This was the first time that he saw her, but he saw that she was really happy. And then he also saw the way the Darkling was. So he was also mad and pissed off about that. Rightfully so, if you ask me. I was feeling some way. Alina was feeling some way. Words were exchanged, whatever that happened. And then guess what? He apologizes. You're telling me you're not gonna fall for this guy? He apologizes. He apologizes. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I know he's not the perfect character. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he's Alina's cup of tea. He's Alina's man. He is there for Alina, and I know from books 2 and 3, I'm still gonna reread them, um, and maybe some thoughts will change. But as of right now, this man has been with her. This man has taken care of her. This man has supported her, and I also don't understand the implications of him not um, wanting the Alina that has the powers. Like that, he just wants Alina all to himself, and that he wants Alina um, like powerless and whatnot. Like no, like in this book, he just wants to protect her. And in this book, especially right at the beginning, she is at a very vulnerable place where like everybody and their mom are trying to get to her, either to kidnap her, either to kill her, or whatever. But everybody's trying to get at her, and he's like, I'm here to protect you. Like, I'm here for you. I don't care if you got powers or not. I'm here for you. But I'm gonna leave it at that. So this next section, I'm gonna go really quickly through my journal notes. All right, so on 1%, right away on page 5, you can tell that there's tension between Grisha and the King's army. And I really wish that this was further explored because you don't really see it. And I don't remember if it's also explored in books 2 and 3. On the top of my head, I think no, but I hope that this is further explored. Um, 7% through, just finished chapter 1. Alina, Mel, and the rest of the First Army are getting ready For a trip through the Shadowfold, Alina is clearly smitten by Mal, and even though she doesn't realize it, Mal is also clearly endeared by Alina. He says, "I would be lost without you," which, as the best tracker ever, is the closest thing to a confession of love, if you ask me. What did I tell you? Next. Alina's also very feisty and sarcastic. I don't remember if she's like this in the future books, which is kind of alarming because that means that some other characters probably shadowed her, no pun intended, but kind of shadowed her character in a sense. So I don't remember if she's also sarcastic and like feisty, but I think she is. But I just think that I gravitated towards other characters. 9% through, just finished chapter 2. I thought the scene with the Volcra when they first go into the fold was well done. A very good job. Rest in peace, Alexei, Alexei. Also, Mal protecting Alina as he should. 50% through, just finished chapter 3. Alina meets the Darkling and she gets taken away. She's in denial. No further comments. 21% through, just finished chapter 4. I hope to see Fjordan spies and Shuhan assassins. Also, at the end of this point, Alina doesn't want to be with the Grisha and hasn't shared the desire to be one. Ivan and Vader are an interesting dynamic and foils for each other. First time seeing the Darklings cuts. So that's one thing that I hope to see in Six of Crows and in the other duology. I just want to see more of Fjordan spies or like more of the Fjordan continent and the Shuhan continent, but we'll see how that goes. 25% of the way through. Just finished chapter 5. Red flag number 1. The Darkling is 120 years old. Alina just arrived to the little palace. 28%. Chapter 6. Just finished. We got introduced to Genya. Okay. 33%, so 1/3 of the way. Finished chapter 7. Alina meets the king and the queen. She's starting to enjoy having this power, but she's still worried about not fitting in. 42% of the way. Finished chapter 10. So far, Alina has been training non-stop with Bagra, but she cannot summon any light for the life of her. She's also getting her butt kicked during the physical training. Overall, I enjoy this training period because it shows our main character struggling. I also want to point out that as of right now, the Darkling hasn't really been talking to Alina. 42% of the book has passed, and the Darkling hasn't really been talking to her. So you're telling me people are still pining over this man? 46% of the way through. The Aprit is a crusty, musty, dusty creep. Alina wonders about Mal. Alina also wonders about why she can't summon her power and is afraid of not fitting in due to that. Okay. So 51% of the way through. It's already halfway through. Just finished chapter 12. In this chapter, Alina comes to the conclusion that she is alone and no one is waiting for her outside of the little palace, all because she isn't getting letters from her one and only friend. She has a breakdown, and during that breakdown, she realizes that she has been suppressing her power all of her life in order to stay outside. But now that she's choosing to be here and not hold on to hope for Mel, she's finally able to call on her power. Again, I had to write that down to make sure that I didn't forget that this happens, and this happens like halfway through. Um, I wrote that personally. I don't like this. I can see how it empowers her in a sense, but you're telling me that after one breakdown, she's now able to use her powers and it lights up like the whole cot. I would have preferred it if it was a slow burn where she's able to summon small beams now I will, but still has to train to control more and bring more light out of her. Also having her powers be connected to Mal. I don't know how to feel about that right now, but I can tell you right now, I don't like it. 65% of the way through, just finished chapter 14. Helena and Mal reunite, but it's not a good interaction. Mal is hurt because he feels that he's lost Helena. I've seen people talk about Mal not liking that Helena is a powerful Grisha, but in this interaction, I don't see that, only that he was jealous towards the Darkling. 68% of the way through, just finished chapter 15. Alina finds out the truth about the Darkling from Bagra. Although Alina doesn't believe what she's hearing, she finally realizes that the Darkling has been lying to her and waiting to use her. And then 96% of the way through, on page 344, Alina just has a realization about how her letting the stag live, showing it mercy, gave her just as much power as killing it. Not gonna lie, this came out of nowhere and wasn't set up well or revealed well at all. Okay. So yeah, those were my journal entries that I did on my story graph, and that's pretty much it that I have to share. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm rating this book 3.5 stars. I'm trying out this new half star ranking system. So right now it's 3.5. In the past, I had rated it 4, but I had other books rated 4 that I thought were better than this one or didn't rifle me up in certain ways as this one. Um, but yeah, it's 3.5, and I think that overall it is a good book. It just has certain things that I definitely would have changed. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, comment your thoughts if you agree or disagree with me. I'm 100% okay with people disagreeing with me. These are our own perspectives, our own opinions, and yeah, thank you so much. Until next time.